I'm just getting some stuff for, yeah. Anyway, shout out to my friend Shannon, also known as Creep Show Art, I believe. Once again, you have sent me a wonderful video I absolutely love from 7 hours ago. I'm sorry I couldn't get it sooner. Regarding Lisa Frank. To answer the question, did I ever buy any Lisa Frank stuff as a kid? No, I did not. My childhood was extremely different than any other kid. I grew up in the 1980s, and Lisa Frank came into fruition probably around 1990, 1991 for me, or 1992. I don't really know. I was going into junior high, and honestly, being the kid that I was, my mom had to literally tell people, do not buy my daughter this stuff. She does not like it. I am not kidding. I absolutely hated it. My grandmother actually told relatives the same thing, that I just was not into this stuff. Lisa Frank for me, when I was growing up, just was one of those things that we just never... I literally, in most cases, was not surprised that she stole artwork. That does not sound surprising to me. Because much of my family enjoyed Native American art, but we were not, like, as I said, into that big popularity stuff. I mean, listening to my little sister tell people, hey, if you're coming to my sister's birthday party, do not buy her Lisa Frank stuff, do not buy her Barbies. She's likely not to, she buy her Hello Kitty before you buy her anything else. I was obsessed with Hello Kitty, Star Wars, and My Little Pony. And yes, 1990s, My Little Pony, was kind of stupid because My Little Ponytails came out, and I absolutely hated it. Because there were no unicorns and there were no Pegasus. I loved unicorns and Pegasi. But the Lisa Frank unicorns, I didn't like the colors, I didn't like the, it just didn't look real to me. It just looked fake and strange and way too psychedelic, even though some of my art style at that time as a kid was pretty much like that. I was more into stuff that was, yeah, I know. I was a weird kid. My mom probably should have mentioned that to a lot of people who, by the way, 1990s pretty much sucked as a kid. If you've ever actually seen 1990s kids. Some of the stuff that I was into. I was also one of those kids who got dragged to see Titanic as a teenager and wanted to go throw up in a bathroom somewhere because it was that cheesy to me. No offense to the director. He went on to do Lord of the Rings, but honestly, I could not handle Jack and Rose. I was just the most unromantic kid you'd ever met. And I find it freaking hilarious when kids in my class would overly romanticize about it while I sat there romanticizing about Luke Skywalker or Princess Leia and Han Solo versus, yeah, that was me. I was that kid. And honestly, the only argument I made, and this got me in so much trouble, the ship sank. Get over it already. Romanticizing the dead, and the fact that you romanticize a bunch of people who died on a ship for your gratification is kind of gross. My mother actually heard me say that, and she went, okay, you heard her. She said it. I literally am, to this day, thankful that I was just not into a lot of the crap that my parents tried to get me into as a kid. Because some of it was, pretty bad. I think the one that really grabs the taco on childhood trauma when it comes to things people were into at my high school and into my junior. Okay, things people were into when I was going into junior high. Lisa Frank was one of them. Oh my gosh. I was into Sailor Moon, so I didn't exactly understand the whole thing very much. My high school in Colorado, I had like 2 high schools I went to. Chatfield, and as I was playing Vampires the Masquerade, I wasn't really into... Okay, if anyone ever asks on these videos about what the hell is Vampires the Masquerade, it was a RPG set in modern times with vampires, set with the Dark Wolf. We did 2nd edition, which, let me tell you, my mom, I had to borrow a copy from my classmate, and if I ever meet him again, I hope he transitioned. Really, I hope she transitioned. Because that girl had better fashion sense than I did, and I loved her outfits. She was actually, the first trans person I ever met. The name she wanted to go by, I don't really rightly remember. I think it was, Samantha, but again, I don't know. She was, a junior the year I was a freshman, and I super loved her. She was so much fun. Her, at the time, boyfriend was a friend of mine, and we had so much fun playing Vampires the Masquerade that, we totally spaced the fact that there was a kid in Florida that totally screwed us over. And we learned about him later after they banned it from our high school, and we could no longer play Vampires the Masquerade in the library, and we were massively pissed. I'm not fucking lying. I'm sorry about the language, but I'm not freaking lying about that one. I had never heard a guy in my school go on a rampage of anger and frustration when, of course, again, people are like, oh my god, you were into this. I'm like, oh fuck yeah, I was into something that was that dark. People think My Little Pony, I was into My Little Ponies from 1984 to 1989. I was 9 years old when we stopped collecting them. But my mother was a bigger My Little Pony fan than I was, and she signed me up for the My Little Pony Club. We did not get a patch. Those were discontinued in 1989. But in 1990, the club was disbanded, and my mom ended up getting the $10 back. But she was mad because she actually really enjoyed it, and really enjoyed the fact that I actually liked being in My Little Ponies and stuff like that as a kid. Because she thought the horses were kind of cool looking. I was into Star Wars from the time I was 4, and that actually has a really sad story attached to it. When I turned 6 years old, I got a Return of the Jedi backpack from my grandfather. My grandfather and my grandmother went out shopping, and my grandfather bought me my backpack and got my sister a blue one with R2D2 and C-3PO on it. Well, my sister actually did use that backpack for a very long time, and then later gave it to me in 1987 when the zipper on my red one broke. And I was really happy. My little sister was an awesome person. When she passed away, it was really sad. The backpack, the red one that I had, a boy in my class actually threw it on the floor, kicked it under a bag, and along with my jacket, and told me, girls play with Barbies, boys play with Star Wars, go play with a Barbie. And later on, my mother found out about it and decided to talk to a teacher, and of course, the teacher sided with the kid and said, well, if she just play with the Barbies instead of, and then they found out that I didn't like Barbies. In fact, they wanted me to go see a child psychologist, and of course I'm like 6 years old, and I thought, what's wrong with me? Why are people making fun of me? It's because I like something more than I like getting a silly old doll. And I wanted a Luke Skywalker action figure more than anything in the universe. I mean, I literally told every year for years it was either a canine from Doctor Who or a Luke Skywalker action figure, which of course I never got the action figure until I was like 38 years old. And I got a statuette later on when I was like 10. So my mother called it she called it bullspit. She said it in a much more mean-spirited way. She literally did not believe that this was a fair treatment of myself and my sister. My mom, later on, when I was little, my mother later told a teacher in I had just gotten like into Garfield, and my parents were into that, but my parents were also not into all the stuff that got me mistreated. Star Wars fans were still treated like crap back in the 1980s, because in the 1980s, if you said you were a Star Wars fan, you got your butt kicked. My mother told my sister this, and of course, this was back when my sister had to tell people, don't get Nagi's Lisa Frank. Don't ever get her Lisa Frank dolls. That is, or Lisa Frank anything. She will not accept it. My grandmother actually also had to tell people that too, because I had one relative, and I forget what cousin it was. I think it was my cousin. I'll just call her Lindy. Lindy tried to get me Lisa Frank stuff, and that was not. I accepted it. I was nice and gracious to her because she is not a rich kid. This is a girl who spent much of her childhood being picked on and being called a loser. I'm not kidding. People called her a loser. They called her names. My grandmother wasn't really nice to her either, which pissed me off. Because, of course, my grandmother always said that she was spoiled. And I said, no, she's not spoiled, she's just human. My grandma on my mom's side did not like anybody picking on me. My cousins didn't like it either. On my dad's side, they got the memo about me not liking Lisa Frank from my father. Which, of course, my cousin, the oldest cousin in my family was a boy named I'm just gonna call him Evan. I'm just gonna call my cousin Evan. Evan, tried to buy me a bunch of magician stuff. Like, he was into magicians. Like the show, not the show, but the, bunch of, magic stuff. Like, he would buy me, but he would buy me, magic card sets, which I still have. He would buy me all sorts of really cool stuff. And my great aunt, once told me that, magic is not I had a grandmother who just said magic isn't real, why do you watch this, you're weird, blah blah blah. I mean, my relatives were not like the most sophisticated people. I was born into a family where learning magic stuff, like my cousin Evan, who became a magician, was pretty cool. My other cousins, this included Sam and a couple others. These are not all their real names, by the way. All got into stuff. I was into stuff like Magic the Gathering, which, by the way, I can't play, and I've tried. My best friend tried to teach me, and I had an ex-boyfriend who tried to teach me, and it didn't stick. I was just not into it. And then in 1990s, I got into Pokemon. Pokemon cards are so much fun. I found out I was part of the adult league by a couple years, but I also played with a bunch of other kids. And some of the kids I played with were like the nicest, most polite kids ever. But these were kids between the ages of 10 and 13. And I honestly got concerned because one kid in particular, actually, I took very special interest in because his parents were like, they take him to Pokemon League, and then they would disappear for like a couple hours, and I later found out that they were doing, I don't know, we actually had to call CPS on his parents, because they were doing this and just using the Pokemon League as a babysitter was bad. And the sad thing is, this kid was like 10 years old. He was like the nicest kid ever, and when I was in Pokemon League, I was like 21, and I just sort of like took an interest in him as a friend. And one day I just decided, I showed up at League about, at 8, and I said, okay, because at 8 o'clock is when the older kids would show up, like between the ages of like 13 and 15, and I was helping out, and this kid was like 8 or 9, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna just watch him for a few hours, and I did, and his parents never showed up. That's what really got me, was his parents never showed up. And I finally called CPS, Child Protective Services, and that was like one time I actually was glad that they actually supported my decision to figure out what was going on. And his dad was using the parking lot of the toy store of which Pokemon League is at as a place to sell drugs. And this was a affluent area of Denver that I lived in, and I was like, why are you doing this? This is a 10-year-old child doing this to him. His parents were pretty, I thought it was really sad because his dad was buying Pokemon cards for him as a way to deter him from trying to do stuff. And I mean, I was just shocked. Great, I died again. But after all that, and after about 10 to 15, after years of knowing exactly what now was going on, I called, it was the first time I called CPS and the last time I called CPS. After the whole incident, his grandmother was called and he went to meet her and her, but they would not let him attend Pokemon League anymore. So that was sad and depressing. His grandparents felt that Pokemon League was a bad influence for him, but when I saw, they let him go one last time, and I told the grandmother, I'm really glad that he's okay, and his grandmother was like, holy cow, you really care about him, and I go, yeah, because, he didn't deserve this. His, father, the mother also was a drug addict, and I called I literally wanted to just scream, because here I was in my 20s, and I felt horrible for this little kid, and his parents just didn't care. And I did. And I cared because he was a little child, and I told one of his relatives, I told the grandmother, if I had my way, I would never have, if I had known this was going on, I would have just taken him back to my apartment, and I would have had you meet me there. And she's like, really? And I go, yeah, because my apartment, I would have, because the transit was a child and things to get to the house, but I would have been much more fun to keep him safe until CPS showed up, and honestly, at first I thought that was kidnapping, so I stayed at the toy store until CPS showed up. By then, the Adult League was happening, and I was part of Adult League, and I decided to let him play in the Adult League with me, which, hey, for an 8-year-old, he got to play stuff that actually, he got to play adult rules, which is pretty funny, considering the adult rules and the kids' rules are not different. They're not any different, except adult language is used much more frequently. I think that's the biggest reason Grandma did not want him playing Pokemon League, because he thought it was a bunch of the adults yelling obscenities, and we weren't yelling obscenities as much as himself. I did yell at one guy who cheated. So, yeah, that's what happened to me, and I don't really count that as something really... I don't really think that's a good idea. If you are a kid and you're like that, I'm gonna just say there are adults out there like myself who will come back for you. Because, you know what, you're a kid, it's not your fault your parents are jerks. It's not your fault at all, it's the fault of people who are not willing to understand you are a human being. My parents were not the greatest either at times. My mother later admitted to that, my mom later realized after she lost her sister to other reasons, my sister and I were, she had to understand that people like myself and you are not full of what you're doing. My parents, on the other hand, early on realized there are people in my childhood that did do a lot of really good things. A lot of them were people that I didn't really respect very much because they made me like a weirdo. I'm gonna say, I think the one that really took my breath away as a person who did Pokemon League was I had a kid who actually stole from another kid, and I was like, okay, little jerk, you're not a good person. I mean, this was coming from an 11-year-old stealing from like a kid who might as well have been their little sibling. And this is the one thing about Pokemon League is, yes, it discourages stealing. Yes, you are encouraged to turn in adults that have stolen from you. And one kid actually did not steal from me per se. He did get upset that I would not trade with him. And then I told him the reason. I said it would be easier to get the Pokemon cards yourself. But I did give him my extra copy of an Espeon. So I told my mom about that later on, and I didn't really feel bad about not training with kids, because sometimes kids you need to try for yourself, because you'll get your better cards if you try for yourself and not trade, because some trades are not worth it. I'm sorry, some trades are just not worth jack crap. And that is just my opinion on anything that's trading cards. If you don't get the card you want for yourself as a kid, what makes you think you're gonna get the one you want from later in life? I am just gonna mention that now. So, yeah, that's my story. And to answer Shannon's question as well. Again, I was not a fan of Lisa Frank as a kid. That was just something my parents had to actually reiterate to a dozen other kids, because people would give me stuff that was popular and I didn't like it. My mom still thinks it's funny that the one most popular toy I had was a three-headed dragon called Gavira. And it wasn't even an official release Gavira from Japan. It was just some green three-headed dragon that my mom bought at a toy store called Children's Palace back in Colorado. And my mom thought it was funny. She thought it was cute. Yeah, you know, parents will just buy toys for their kids, even as random as they are, because guess what? There are some pretty screwed up toys you can get back in the 80s that are not meant for kids, but somehow they end up in the toy store anyway. And that three-headed dragon was also a safety hazard because my dad stepped on it multiple times with bare feet. And you will not believe how painful that was. I mean, how painful do you think a toy is if you step on it and it's like stepping on Legos, which my father has called landmines. Yeah, Lord have mercy, I will tell you, yes, my dad actually told me never, he still cannot believe some of the stuff I did as a kid. that I got away with. My favorite one was the toys that I had that most likely should never have been given to me in the first place. And I think the funniest toy was the three-headed dragon that is called King Ghidorah, which had no wings, just a three-headed dragon, that my mother thought was cute and thought she should give that to me. Same with the purple two-headed dragon with the really sharp points that my dad accidentally stepped on. I wish I was kidding, my dad didn't step on it. that was painful. I felt bad for my dad for that one. Anyone who gets toys from kids, with their kids in mind, 1980s toys are some of the most, for me, I think, dangerous, because sometimes they had sharp points, they were made with questionable materials. I mean, it wasn't made with asbestos, thankfully. Unfortunately, I am going to mention My Little Pony from China. They actually had to recall the oh my god, they had to recall it back when I was a kid, and let me tell you, that was interesting because I still have the My Little Pony. And the reason why they recalled those My Little Ponies back in the day, I don't even remember if it was really something that was like projected online. There was no online, there was just these letters that would go out. And I think the one that came out one time was, "Attention parents, please hold this particular toy." And it was just these announcements that would be posted at like Toys R Us or Children's Palace, and it just said, "By the way, these are the toys that are recalled." And lo and behold, it was a 1984 My Little Pony, because the molds were made out of asbestos, and there might be asbestos residue on the toy. Granted, the toy in question was mine, and the only thing that was on it was mold on the inside because I played with it in the frickin' bathtub. My mother pulled the toy anyway and threw it away. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that? My mother just tossed the toy in the trash, and we never talked about it again. And she did buy me a new one, and that Sky Dancer did not, yeah. Grandma Board was a little pissed because that was a toy she wanted. The other toys that I had as a kid, and I think that would be the funniest one, was the would have been the Strawberry Shortcake and Friends action set. My mother actually bought it when I was 5 and later regretted it because it smelled awful. It was supposed to smell like strawberries. That sure as hell did not smell like strawberries. Blueberry muffin, same problem. Did not smell like a blueberry muffin. Huckleberry, didn't smell like Huckleberry at all either. My mother was convinced these damn smelling dolls were the worst thing ever made, and we were not allowed to have them anymore. That was the funniest thing I ever saw, was my mother's comment to me about it when I was a kid. What the hell, Mariah? What the hell, Nogs? What the hell, Nogs? Why did you buy this? Why did you ask for this for Christmas? Why did you ever ask for it? Your grandmother, my grandma Board, absolutely hated the toys too, and yet she bought them anyway, because if not, I would have probably pitched a fit, and being the stupid little, learning disabled kid that I was, I probably would have pitched a fit much louder than what my sister would have expected. My sister actually told me a story once about one of the toys, and it was a toy called, oh gosh, I can't remember. Oh, it was the reason we never got a, this is the stupid, it was called the, it was some cooking thing. My grandma, it was that little baker thing that was on. Yeah, my mom got the next most dangerous thing called a light bright. According to one of my friends, she actually set fire to it in the backyard of her house. Oh wait, no, that was my husband. He set fire to it. It's like, how the hell do you kill a yard? You get a fucking light bright and you play with it until it heats up and melts plastic. My grandma, the Easy Bake Oven. That was it. That was the thing that my mother would never let me have an Easy Bake. I will tell you why I was never allowed to have an Easy Bake Oven, because my mother was so afraid that I might burn down the house with it. Which is even funnier considering the safety. I would be more likely to burn down the house with a light bright than I would a actual Easy Bake Oven. But of course my mother, being the person that she was, decided it was funnier to tell a bunch of my friends about the story of the Easy Bake Oven and why we never were allowed to have one. Grandma Board on my mom's side, literally had to tell people, do not ever get me an Easy Bake Oven. I got Easy Bake baking materials. By the way, those are piece of crap. And as a Girl Scout, I already learned how to cook anyway, so it was a flipping waste of my goddamn time and talent. Yes, I am telling you that now. I know how to cook, and I learned how to cook when I was 7 with assistance. And trust me, my mother has told stories of how that turned into a near disaster in Girl Scouts because, of course, apparently in Easy Bake language, some of the stuff that they had us cooking wasn't exactly kosher or safe. I mean, I don't know how people survived in the 1980s, the way I did as a kid. I mean, my mother still thinks that I did not mean to be kind of that kid, but of course my childhood was not exactly the most easy. I mean, I grew up in the rural mountains of Colorado, and I think the dumbest thing I've ever heard people tell me is, oh, you had it easy. No, I had nothing easy. My childhood was the most abysmal thing you could think of. Not because people were like, oh my god, you must have done this, and this. Dude, my kid, I got stuck being told I wasn't gonna go to college. And you're telling me my childhood was the greatest thing in the universe? What? Flipping hell, man. I got stuck being a freaking... I told my mom once, it's like, do you really want to know? My mom once told a kid in my class that if I get made fun of one more damn time, she would, call my, I forget what it was she wanted to call. She told my grandmother once that, a kid growing up in the 1980s, Lisa Lisa Frank is probably the least of your worries. But when I grew up in the 80s, I had to grow up with some stranger stuff, and I think Hello Kitty was probably the biggest influence. I mean, I have a limited edition 1979 Hello Kitty, toy that should not exist in this country because it actually was a music box sold in Australia. My mom's friend was from Australia, was actually stationed in Australia in the U.S. military, so I got a music box that plays Waltzing Matilda because my mother did not like the song It's a Small World after all because it was a bad song. Next person in my family, my mom actually said when choir they started having us sing that song, she actually had to stand out in the hallway because she just could not stand that song because it was so overplayed, so oversung. And later on in life, I actually kinda realized my mom did not intentionally want to hurt my feelings over it, because what I realized is what 8-year-old has to sing a song and has to deal with the fact that her mother hates the song, not her. I mean, I actually told my mom this. I said, well, you sang it, you sat through my sister's concert and didn't have a problem. And then I later on realized my mother wasn't the one who sang this. It was a song that was sung back when I was a kid. And it was so oversung and overplayed that everybody literally, no offense Disney, but what the hell? It's a Small World was a very bad song to brainwash a child with. And I just remember telling my mother this one time as a child, I don't hate my mother for leaving the concert when I was 8. I hate the fact that she had to, because the concert was her chance to be around me. Yeah, my mom, I actually told the story to my nephew at one time, and I told my nephew this story, once, that you never really sing It's a Small World around Grandma because Grandma will not like it. And, of course, my mother actually, thanked me for actually explaining it to my nephew, who was, again, at the time, was at the same age I was when I was made to sing this stupid song. And it's stupid that people make you sing a song you hate, and you're forced to be the parent, the person who has to tell your nephew, hey, don't sing that around Grandma because Grandma won't like it. Grandma Board absolutely despises that song. My grandmother absolutely hated the song, but I understand why she hated it. I understand it enough now as a teenager, as an adult, and I understood it when I was like 8. I understood now more than ever and I don't hate that I was made to sing something that I knew my mother would not like. My mom, to this day, has asked me to show my nephew a bunch of the stuff that I did as a kid. And honestly, showing him the Girl Scout stuff was funny. Game, I'm just gonna tell you, it's a lot harder to explain a few things when your family, when people think your family sucks so badly. My mom is not the kind of person. I'm thankful she did tell people, don't stop giving me Barbie, stop giving me Lisa Frank, because she knew it either irritated the hell out of me, or it was the fact that just for people weren't listening to their friends. I mean, as a kid, I really wanted to have friends. When I told somebody I don't like Titanic, I didn't even defend them. And I understood as a child that many parents think that being a little girl, you're supposed to like certain things. I've met girls growing up that were into the same stuff I was into, and we weren't really into like playing Barbies. I didn't like playing Barbies. I actually wanted an American Girl doll. And I mean, if Shannon ever wanted to hear my American Girl doll story, I'll tell you that one was really screwed up because I was told all my childhood that by the way, you have to take really good care of these dolls, and my mother was convinced they were porcelain. Oh, FYI, they weren't. They weren't porcelain, by the way. Just to let you know, my mother absolutely thought they were porcelain. And I mean, I was not devastated when the box arrived with my Felicity doll in it. It was vinyl. My grandmother absolutely was convinced it was also porcelain. So, for years I had been getting porcelain dolls for Christmas to prepare me for this exclusive American Girl doll thing. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And as a doll collector, I was really super excited, and then I find out it's a vinyl doll. I wasted my childhood trying to tell people you have to take good care of your dolls. You have to, believe me, my dolls were immaculate, except for one, which was my German doll, and the hair fell out, and that I still need to figure out how to fix that. Sarah is a beautiful doll, but my childhood, oh my freaking god! People who tell me that having American Girl dolls are the most awesome thing in the world for you. I hate to disappoint the parents that these dolls are like super educational and stuff. They're not. they're there to be played with. They're not there to inspire or educate you. They're there to just be part of who you are as a child. I mean, I spent half of my childhood playing with dolls, and not Barbies, per se. I collected actual dolls. I wanted a Madame Alexandra doll once, and, of course, when you see the price of those, you're like, okay, what 10-year-old can afford this? And trust me, Madame Alexandra dolls, damn it. I was surprised. I mean, who in their right minds would want a doll? And then you're sitting there going, so, how much is the doll? You don't want to know. Grandma Board once told me that I was staring at a Madame Alexandria doll for 3 hours at his toy store at the mall, and my first impulse was to tell my grandfather. So, and the answer is no. The answer was always, hell no. You're not buying we're not buying this. Grandma Ward once told me that my grandfather just took one look at this doll and told me that, I'm sorry, Nagi. We can't get you this. This is just too damn expensive. Okay, Mom. Okay, Dad. I can live with that. I mean, I took one look at that damn doll and went, Mom, I'm broke. Madame Alexander dolls are very expensive. If you are a kid, and I will tell you now, do not ever buy something that costs more than what your piggy bank can hold. And trust me, Madame Alexander doll is expensive. I mean, my porcelain dolls always ran between $20 to $35 a pop. A American Girl doll was 50, 60 bucks. Back in the day, they were probably even higher. My grandmother once said that asking for one for Christmas was a pushing it. Asking for one when you are 12 years old and you are an avid doll collector, I waited till I was frickin' 14 before I got an American Girl doll. Felicity was my first at 14. At 15, I got Molly, and I almost got my cousin's Samantha by proxy. And then her grandmother died. So my cousin just would not part with it because Samantha was given to her by her grandmother, and I did not feel comfortable getting that from her, even though she wanted to give it to me anyway, and I told her no. I really do not want to take my cousin's doll, and I never will. Because, quite frankly, everybody who loves American Girl dolls will tell you that most of your dolls are actually very nice collector's items. I collected for the longest time. One of my biggest collections is My Little Ponies, which my mom to this day, and I inherited all my sister's ponies, including Rapunzel, which, by the way, Rapunzel is an exclusive European long-tail pony, and then I have Wedding Day, and which is Tuxedo Tails white. I also have Morning Star, Silver Star, Moon Dancer, Star Dancer, which was her twin, and you will only see her twin in Escape from Nightmare Castle, Ember, which there were two different versions of Ember. There was the one with the star, cutie marks, and then there was the one without the star. The one without the star is excessively more rare than the one that you will find with the star. And she came with a storybook or a story with story tape called Ember's Calling, which is the Pink Lemonade story. Most people think that My Little Pony is most people think My Little Pony was not meant to do that. My grandmother, actually the My Little Pony story tape is really hard to find. It is Ember's story. You can find it on YouTube, and I do not have access to that one anymore. I literally lost that one. I had it saved at one point. Looks like I lost it. So I'm sorry, folks. I may be an MLP fan, from the 90s, but I cannot keep track of crap to say things. So, yeah, other than the fact that I had to deal with a poor little boy here in Pokemon League, my entire collection of stupid stuff, my grandmother's dog, my mom's doll obsession with trying to destroying dolls, but my Lisa Frank despise. I mean, although Lisa Frank was probably the lightest of my childhood, I think the most traumatic childhood thing I ever had to deal with on birthdays was getting a Barbie, and I hated Barbie, okay? I have friends who collect them. I have a coworker who collects them, and she knows I will tell the story of how I beat up a Barbie with a King Ghidorah statue by smashing the ever-living tar out of it because I got so fucking tired of people giving me goddamn Barbies for Christmas or for my birthday. My mother actually has told people the story as well, and most of the story has been exaggerated just a tad, but Barbie for me is an insult. Childhood, of the stupid stuff I did, and the stuff that people have absolutely no clue that I did as a kid. I think the only one that actually irritated my mom was the fact I went into Girl Scouts, and whoever put me in the same room as this one girl, the story is on Reddit, and quite frankly, the Reddit story is how my Girl Scout troop almost became, well, I don't know if I should just say it. My Girl Scout troop nearly became free labor for a lying sack of horse caca, and I will divulge that story later on in a different post. But yeah, she was, I'm kind of glad she got arrested, and I'm kind of glad her son went back to jail. Yeah, it was her son. But yeah, her son was a freaking, I don't know why. I don't know why anyone in this group of friends of mine, back when I was in high school, seals, what do you mean? I only have some. So, I'm gonna close out there. See you guys later.